Good morning, everyone, and I would like to personally welcome you to our garden. This garden belongs to Bloom and Grow, and it was our very first project that we undertook. The beginning of Bloom and Grow started in 1997. That was our inception, and our first president was Gretchen Boyd, and she asked me if I would be the Ways and Means chairman. We had absolutely no money in our budget. And as Ways and Means, you have to think of a project or some way, that you can go out to the community and do some type of project or event that you can raise money. So that basically was what my job was. And I gave it much thought. And at that time, Winter Garden, I see many of you that have been here many years, but for those that haven't been here, Winter Garden was not a very attractive town. It was very industrial looking. There were no places to really eat. It was mostly, insurance companies and realtors and Pounds Motor Company and several things like that. And it had no landscaping at all, no trees or anything. And I worked with Gretchen and several others on the Heritage Foundation, and we were trying to organize funds to redo, the whole facade of Winter Garden, to change it into a place that people would want to come to again. And as I was looking at Winter Garden and going around the community, I realized we had no parks. We had Tanner Auditorium, but there were no parks for people if they wanted to come and just enjoy the outdoors or the nature, or, bring their children, their family or friends. And at the same time, Disney was doing Celebration, and they were selling bricks for the street, engraved bricks. And back in 1997, I know a lot of churches and schools have done that since, but back in 1997, this was a relatively new idea of selling engraved bricks for a project and raising money. And I thought, what a wonderful idea that would be. We could sell engraved bricks if I could just find some property. And we were so fortunate that we had as one of our founding members, Vera Carter. And Vera Carter was not only did she spearhead and organize Trail Friends, but she was also a county commissioner. And I approached her and I said, Vera, do you know of any land available, in the West Orange area or Winter Garden or someplace that maybe we could have, somebody would donate to us, and we could organize our group and sell engraved bricks and do a garden area. And she just lit up like a light bulb, and she said, oh, Jackie, I'm working with Linda Chapin right now, who was the mayor of Orlando, and she said, we're turning all these railroad tracks into trails. And she said, we're doing a 16-mile long extension that we're starting from Winter Garden to Claricona. Now, they already had the Oakland to Winter Garden section done, but they were extending it. And she said, we've had donated to us 26 acres that we want to do a Chapin station, a trailhead. And anyhow, she got me in touch with Orange County Parks and Recreation, and I came out here with several other of our members on a very foggy morning. In fact, it was much like this, except pretty foggy. And we met with Ken Pelham, who was the head of the landscape architect for Orange County Parks and Recreation. And we struggled through this property that most of it was underwater. Where you are right now was about 12 inches deeper than it is now. We had to get fill dirt and everything to fill in this area. It was all underwater. It was a dump off for everybody here. Those that were the founding members, and many of them that came out here with myself, we spent many days out here cleaning up old tires, mattresses, everything you can imagine was dumped in this area, and we had piles all over. And then Orange County would bring in dump trucks, and they'd pick up our stuff and haul it off. It took quite a bit of time trying to get this area cleaned up. And I had asked Ken when we were walking through, because they weren't planning on doing anything with the woods. He showed me where the building was going to be and where they wanted to put the tennis courts. And I looked over and I said, well, what about all those trees? And he said, oh, I don't think you want that. It's all underwater. And I said, well, I might want that, because I love trees. And so we decided to take this area. And what we did is I first had to get fill dirt brought in. And my late husband and I had done a couple of subdivisions and, building houses. And I knew a lot of other contractors in the area and Jack Quisenberry, and asked them if anybody's digging a hole for a pool or whatever, moving fill dirt, would you ask them if they could bring it out here? We want it. And it wasn't shortly after that, we probably had a dozen loads of fill dirt scattered all over. And then I was thinking, how in the world am I going to, move all this dirt? And Jack Quisenberry says to me, and of course, if many of you may not know, Jack was our mayor for many, many years in Winter Garden. And he says, well, Jackie, I'll bring my tractor over. And I said, oh, and I have my husband's transom, so we can just level all this dirt. Well, he said, let's meet out here at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I get here at 8, and I see Jack with his straw hat on, sitting on his tractor. And I said, where's your truck and trailer? And he said, oh, I didn't bring that. He said, I just drove my tractor over here. And I said, Jack, you drove from one side of Winter Garden all the way through downtown, all the way out here on his tractor. That's the kind of mayor that we had. He had a good soul, a big heart. And so we spent the day grading all of this and using the transit and trying to get everything level. We had to be very careful that we didn't put extra dirt, any dirt around the trees, because we know when you do that, you suffocate the roots. So trying to raise all of this up so it wasn't underwater. And then it came to the next part where we were going to have to figure out where we were going to put the bricks. And my builder that I had used to do several spec houses in our subdivision, he was so kind. He said, well, Jackie, let's go out there and we'll lay it out. So we got all the wood forms, and he and I laid out the wood forms around here so that we could pour a 5-inch concrete slab. And like I said, we had no funds, so many merchants in this area donated supplies and everything for us when we told them what our vision of having this garden was. And anyhow, I went over to the concrete plants that are on Hennis Road, and I said, well, if you're delivering concrete and you have concrete left over, I said, would you let me know and bring it out here, and rather than dumping it where you dump it, I said, could we use it? And so after about 15 calls, I was coming out here, and it was like, 5-10 feet at a time that we were getting enough concrete, and Kenny and I would come out here and screed it off and everything. So all of this brick path, this part and the part that circles around the pond is all on a 5-inch slab. And the bricks are put down, and they are, West Orange Lumber Company was kind enough to give us bags of concrete, and I mixed those bags and put it all along the side. Much of it is covered up by mulch, but to hold the bricks in place so they wouldn't spread out. But then we sanded the bricks in between. And like I was going to say, we had a lot of merchants. We had Cecil Robinson was just absolutely wonderful. And this is Virginia Robinson, one of our members. It's her husband. And he was one of the executives out at Disney, and he went and talked to them about irrigation, because I didn't want to put any plants in unless, living in Florida, you have to have an irrigation system. We can't always count on rain like we're going to probably get today and the next few days. And he had the Disney volunteers come out here, and Disney donated at that time, it was a $20,000 irrigation pump, which is still here at the park, and it irrigates this whole park, not just this area, but, all the surrounding areas, the other 26 acres. And Disney volunteers had this elaborate plan they drew up. They came out here and trenched holes all around here and installed our whole sprinkling system. And so there we were good to go with the sprinkling system. And then when we asked all the members if they would go ahead and sell 10 bricks, and because we needed to have some type of money. So the money that we got from those bricks that they sold, engraved bricks, and we told everybody it's going to be a while before you get, the engraved brick down, because I needed money to buy the bricks. And I talked to someone that was doing Celebration, and they told me where they got their bricks, because when you use these bricks, these are a solid clay brick. It's not manufactured anymore. And after they did the bricks for Celebration, we got what was left over from Celebration that we paid for, and it was a very discounted price. So I can't replace any of these bricks. And the ones that circle around the Rose Garden, we did that area. The Rose Garden was stage 3. Those are a different type of brick than what we have. They're more corrugated. It's not very good to engrave on, because when you engrave, it'll chip out. So anyways, after that, then Cecil said, I said to him, well, I'd love to have an arbor. And we organized a work day where everybody was coming out here. And when we finally got our bricks coming in, gals were coming out here putting the bricks, helping me put some of the bricks down that were engraved. And Cecil and I were out here, and we designed this arbor. And he bought all the materials and brought them out here. And we started laying it out, and I just started with the post hole diggers, digging the holes. And didn't use any measuring thing, just dug the holes, and we put these 12-foot, 6x6s in. And when we got and concreted them in, and then Cecil said afterwards, he said, Jackie, and I said, what's the matter, Cecil? And he says, when we go to do the top, he said, I'm really concerned that, they're going to be all different. These 4 corner posts are going to be all different levels, and I do not know how I'm going to cut those off. And I said, well, I tell you what, let's run a string line and put a level on it and see how much we're off on each of the 4 posts. And if you ever are not a believer, this just reinforced me. There is God working with you every minute of the day. We got up there, ran the string line. We went around. Every post was the perfect measurement, except this one over here is 1/8 of an inch off. And we said, what's 1/8 of an inch off? We just couldn't believe it. We were just amazed. And so we completed this. And we had several other people that helped us work out here. Fred Crabtree was wonderful. I have a very good friend that owns Rasmussen Nursery. He was out here planting plants, bringing his auger and everything. Jerry Van Dyke, I can't say enough about him. What a skilled craftsman he was. So not only to our members, but to all of their husbands that donated their time and their expertise to help us create this lovely garden. The first phase is what you see when you come through the arbor, and it winds around this arbor here. You come through the main arbor and winds around. That was phase 1, and that was completed. It was actually completed late summer of 1999. And in October, the park had officially opened and had their inauguration in May of 1999, but our path wasn't completed. We were still, laying bricks, and I came out here and laid almost every one of these bricks in this first phase. We have 112 joints. As it turns, I had to do a joint, and I had to cut all of those bricks in those joints. And at the time, we had no electricity. So I had to rent a generator and get a wet saw, and it took me 12 days to cut all of these joints, these bricks, and I couldn't use a template because the joints are all different, and so each brick had to be measured, and it's like 8 bricks across and 112 joints. And but we finally got it finished, and we had our grand opening October 9th of 1999. I do have a pictorial book here. Gretchen Boyd was so kind that she had taken, or other people had taken pictures, and she gathered the pictures and everything, and she put them in this little album. So you are all welcome. I have it on the table here to look at it. But when we had our opening, she had brought a box full of butterflies. I guess there might have been 3 or 4 dozen butterflies, and we released butterflies all through this area. And our butterfly garden was over to my left here, and Nelson Roses had donated roses, and Jim Thomas and all different people had donated plants to help us. And so it was a beautiful day, and the girls, Sue Crabtree and Gretchen and the other board members were so kind to do a granite engraved brick for me, and that's what's in the center of this arbor. And they presented it to me that day, and that was such a touching thing for me, you know, to experience, you know, that we finally got this part done. And I still had visions that we were going to expand. So well, before I go any further, this lady over here, Miriam Waxter, standing here so patiently holding her umbrella, put together our book. You are welcome to look at this. This is what she did, and I mean, it's very time-consuming, and this was presented to the National Federation of Garden Clubs because we, you know, you put in whatever projects you've done, and they have awards and everything they give you. But Miriam, being so meticulous and a perfectionist, you can just imagine. And of course, they had all kinds of rules that you can only use lettering so high, and everything had to be spaced and all this stuff. And I could hear Miriam, she was griping, can you believe they're doing this and everything? But she did this masterpiece book. And when it came time for the, you know, when they were doing their judging and everything at the convention, we didn't know, several of us went there. I remember it was Mary Lynn Van Dyke and Nancy Sines and all of us, and we really didn't have any idea. They kept announcing all these awards, and we thought, wow, you know, they're not mentioning our name, and all of us have put in a lot of work. And all of a sudden, when they mentioned that we had gotten the top award, we had won the Kellogg Award for like the best new public park in the United States, and the best project that was done that year. We were just flabbergasted. We couldn't believe it. And I have both of those awards over here that are framed. One from the National Garden Club, Federation of Garden Clubs, and the other one is the actual Kellogg Award. And I think we were just overwhelmed and so pleased at that. And then shortly after that, I decided to continue on. So the next phase, too, was and it goes around the pond. And I got Arlen and myself came out here, and I said, you know, I want a pond. And he said, that's kind of a crazy idea. And I said, no, I want a pond. So we got out here with our shovels, and one of the members of Trail Friends, Richard Dunkel, and he was a county commissioner for Mount Dora, and he brought his girlfriend, and the four of us sat out there and dug that big hole. And I had concrete block at home, and I brought the concrete block over, and I laid all the concrete block around for the size of our pond, you know, and cemented it all in and everything. And then we put the pool pond liner over that. So that pond is not going anyplace. And we got all of that done. And then another friend of mine they had moved to Ocala, and they had built a runway and a hangar home for their airplane. And when I went to visit them, they had all these huge rocks. And I said, what are you going to do with those rocks? And she said, I don't know. We're trying to get rid of them. And I said, I want them. And then I'm sitting there thinking, well, how in the world am I going to get these rocks from Ocala down to here? And our good friend Marv Erickson pulled through he has a great big flatbed truck. I mean, it's actually flatbed with no rails or anything on it. It's like a semi, and we took it up there to their place, and they had a front-end loader, and they loaded all these rocks on this flatbed, and we came back here, and we pull in where the service road is, and I said to him, well, how in the world, you know, we had a front-end loader put these rocks on, how are we going to get them off? And he says, well, I have an idea. I've been thinking about that all the way down. So what he did was he backed up as fast as he could, you know, in the area about where we were going to do it, and slammed the truck in forward, and they just all slid off onto the ground. And we just sat there. And once again, we were just astonished that all of this worked out. So then it was another day that it took 4 of us, because the rocks are very heavy, and you look at them now and you can hardly see. They don't look that big. But I want you to look at this photograph here. And you can see how mammoth they are. They have moss and they're covered up with ferns and everything, but these rocks are really heavy. And it took 4 of us. We got 2 2x4s, put them underneath the rocks, and each person took a corner, and we moved all these rocks around, and it was like putting a jigsaw puzzle together to figure out where we were going to put one. And of course, I'm out there supervising. I want a waterfall. And they said, no, you don't want it. I said, yes, I want a waterfall. So we stacked these rocks up several layers in one area so we could have the waterfall. And Arlen came out here and did all the plumbing and everything. And while we were out here doing all of that, this elderly lady comes. Her name was Ann Smith. I guess she was probably in her mid-80s or something. And she was wandering around looking, and she said, and I started talking to her, and she said, I just lost my husband. And she said, I want to do something out here, for him. And she said, do you have anything that maybe I could do? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I said, we're selling benches, which all the benches were donated. We had numerous members bought benches. And so she bought the one bench that's directly across from the pond. But at the same time, she said to me, well, my daughter-in-law is in Japan, she and her husband, and their company wants to do something for my husband, because we've gone over there and seen them and met all of these people. And she said, they are going to raise money. They raised over $1,000. And I said, well, I would love to have some bronze herons. And so she paid for all of those birds to go in. And like I said, everything, we've had so many things donated to us, and it's just been a blessing. And a lot of plants. I've had a lot of members, Kay Vanderley, I've had Carolyn Greer. I mean, there's just been some Nelson Roses. I know I brought out a whole bunch of plants. Other people have brought out plants, and they're just scattered all over. And Jeannie just recently, for her anniversary, brought out along the fence lines some beautiful orchids that are still blooming. So we're always looking for new material if it'll fit into, partial shade and sun. And, I just hope that all of you enjoy this. If you have any questions or anything, about the park, we're going to continue. I just hope that we can continue maintaining it. I know there was a period when we had work days and the members were required to come out here one day a week. We did an assignment sheet, and they could sign up for 1 month to come out here and work and keep this place looking nice. And as many of us have gotten older, it makes it more difficult, trying to get volunteers to come out and work. So we've hired a maintenance person the last several years that comes out here a couple times a month to do it, but I still need people. If any of you are volunteers that would like to volunteer and help, because Katie Perry, bless her heart, she lives across the street and she's out here all the time. She has covered for me all the months during the summer when I'm away and up in North Carolina, and she comes out here and takes care of the pond, needs cleaning, and feeds the fish and blows off the path, and she does numerous things. And I know Rochelle had helped us, but she has presently taken on another job and everything. But we were a little bit shorthanded, and we could really use some extra help, even if it's an hour or two, whenever, once a month, whatever. And I just hope that, this park has been so much to so many people. We've had weddings out here in the arbor. I've come out here several times when magazines and catalogs have been using this garden area as a background for ads that they were doing. We've had Easter egg hunts, which we have now discouraged because we have found plastic Easter eggs all over, and then the kids come out and trample everything down. So we've kind of discouraged that. But many people just come out here. I know there's a postal driver that I see out here every time I come out here, and she's always sitting here having her lunch if I'm out here at noontime. And when we were doing Spring Fever, I had an elderly couple come up to me, and I guess it was about 6 or 7 years after we had done this, and he wanted to know where I was. He had heard that I had a booth and where I was, and they approached me, and he said, you know, I just wanted to thank you and your group so much for what they've done. He said, I don't go to church every Sunday, but he said, my wife and I come out here frequently, and he said, this is where I find my God. So I hope it means something for you, tranquility. Maybe, you know, you're having a hard time and you just want to get away and collect your thoughts. This is a place for it. And I invite all of you to come back again. I also have brick order forms. If any of you have not ordered a brick and would like to put one for your family, maybe, you know, your children, or we have lots of bricks here for all different purposes. We have bricks not only to memorialize people, but also, you know, for happy occasions, for a newborn baby and an anniversary celebration or whatever. And I have a lot of bricks for pets out here too. We kind of have a pet area. So, you know, please help yourself to one of the forms, or you could go on to the bloomandgrowclub.org website, and they also have one of the forms that you can download and fill that out and just, you know, send it to me. Does anybody have any questions? And I forgot to ask, has anybody not been here before? Is this your first time here? Can somebody raise their hands? Oh, well, good. Well, this is wonderful. This is great. And, you know, I just hope you'll come back again. And thank you for, you know, participating today and being here. Oh, I forgot to mention about the Monarch Butterfly. It was a few years ago, and this is in memory of one of our dear founding members, Joanne Cawthon. And Gretchen had all of this done and everything at Florida Metalcraft and asked if Arlen and I could install it. Well, we went to Florida Metalcraft and just trying to put it on our trailer to figure out how we were going to get it out here. So we brought 2 extension ladders, and we were out here mounting this up because I was holding it and Arlen was trying to use screws and whatever, trying to fasten the feet into the tree. And I didn't want to look down or anything because we're way up on these extension ladders, and I could hear all of these people on the path going by and saying, oh, look, Mom, look at the butterfly. And they were saying all of this and everything. And when we got through installing that, I looked down, and there had to have been at least 30 people that had gathered around the base here, children and parents and everybody, and they all applauded. And I didn't know any of these people, and they said, oh, thank you, the butterfly looks so wonderful. And it just made me think, well, you know, we really haven't had a dedication of the butterfly to Joanne, but I think her spirit was here that day, and she heard all of the people that were surrounding so joyful and happy that that butterfly was put up there. So that was kind of like her little celebration then.